happy we're playing them tonight because transitions into our first topic here, where for the second time in less than 2 weeks, the Knicks and the Celtics play a very solid nationally televised basketball game because last night's final was 131 to 129 in double overtime. A game that was close from pretty much beginning to end. New York kind of, got themselves back in it in the third quarter, but on the run after Boston kind of stretched it out in the second. But you had a number of great performances on the night. The one standout being Emmanuel Quickly, who looked like uh, an all-star in those final three-ish periods. 38 points, 15 of 28 from the floor, being guarded by Marcus Smart of all people. You had RJ Barrett there with 29 points, Julius Randle with 31 points, Mitchell Robinson 13 and 14 against a Jason Tatum 40-point burger. And then you had a number of other points there as well. Al Horford had 20, Jaylen Brown 29. So great game all around. But this is the Knicks' 8th win in a row, Mitch. This team was 31 and 27 at the start of the streak. They're 39 and 27 now. They are climbing in the standings right now. According to last check, they were 5th, right behind the 4th place Cavaliers. So I think it pertains back to these topics we've been having, where I'm very curious to see what the Knicks can do to these Cavaliers, not just in the standings, but also the fact that they beat them earlier on in the season at the Garden. And I'm wondering if the Knicks are this one team that is coming up now that people are really going to have to take seriously. And I'm very surprised that more people are not doing it at this point.
I think more people aren't doing it at this point because we've seen the Knicks sometimes recently, not a whole lot, but we've seen them do this before, and it's a tough matchup in the first round. But Mitch, there's a name you didn't mention in that Knicks win last night, and that was one Jalen Brunson.
Yes.
And for them to win last night in double overtime versus the Celtics, that's a huge win. And now the Cavaliers can feel someone breathing on their neck because the Knicks are one game behind them. And with the Celtics coming into town, Mitch, off a double overtime loss, getting into town late, and I mean, everybody played last night. They're going to be more tired than usual than you would on a back-to-back. To me, Mitch, this is pretty close to a must-win game for the Cavs because you do not want to flirt with falling out of the 4th spot to the 5 spot because home court advantage for this team is huge. Don't believe me? The Cavs are 27-7 at home and 13-9 on the road.
Yeah.
Playing in Cleveland at Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse for this team that is very young is a huge boost of confidence. And it's something they have to have when it comes to the playoffs, at least for the first round, if you want to see them win a series. Now, listen, could they go on the road and beat the Knicks? Yes, because it is a magical place in Madison Square Garden. Donovan Mitchell is from there. We know this, but at the same time, just focus on getting that top 4 spot and making sure if it goes 7, you're playing in Cleveland rather instead of Madison Square Garden, where that crowd is going to be in a frenzy. We've seen it before. But Mitch, with them playing the Celtics tonight, they lost 117 to 113 last Wednesday. The score really not as close as the game really was. The third quarter, they blew out the Cavs. We mentioned they outscored them 41 to 26. The Celtics outscored the Cavs. And really that was it. Evan Mobley and Jared Allen, Mitch, got pushed around. They got bullied. Yeah. Evan Mobley, 12 points. He was 6 of 15 from the field. Jared Allen, 5 points and 7 rebounds. Probably one of his worst games this season as a starting center. They have to come out tonight and they have to play one of their better games of the season because we saw Saturday night Donovan Mitchell leave. Already today, we see that he's at shoot around with his fingers taped together.
Yep.
He might not be 100%. There's a chance, Mitch, he might not play by the time we get to 7:00 tonight, but it looks like he's going to be available.
I think he's going to play. Yeah.
I would hope he would because this is a huge game for the Cavs. At the same time, is Al Horford really going to shoot 6 of 8 from 3 and score 23 points tonight?
Probably not.
Probably not. That was probably, I didn't look it up, but that's probably one of his best games he's played all season. Tatum had 41, and we know that, and I expressed this last time, we don't have anybody to stop him. But if you can limit everybody else like you did that night outside Al Horford, you're going to be in a spot to win the game. You held Jaylen Brown to 16 points because Isaac Okoro can guard him a little bit better, because Donovan Mitchell has bought into the defense here since coming to Cleveland. Mitch, this is a huge game for the Cavs tonight. This is practically a must win, in my opinion, because you do not want to get into a situation where you all of a sudden are falling behind the Knicks. And look, I'm still hopeful the Knicks have peaked too early. There's still a long ways to go here in the NBA season. You can always hope they peak too early and they get in the playoffs and they're just not as hot. But why take that risk if you can control your own destiny, which is what they're doing here tonight? You mentioned this segment already. They beat the Pistons. It took them a half to wake up. End of the story is they beat a team they should have beat. And I told you last week, they have to take care of business. And I believe when I looked it up, before that Pistons game, there were 17 games left. 9 of them were against teams below 500. You have 8 games remaining against teams below 500. The Cavaliers, Mitch, in my opinion, if they want to hold on to this 4 seed and they're going to lose to some good teams the rest of the way, they're going to have to win all 8 of those games to have a fighting chance. We'll see what happens, but going to Miami twice still is worrisome. Philadelphia still. Chicago all of a sudden, Mitch, is playing a little bit better. I know they've lost 2 in a row, but they're playing better. The Pacers all of a sudden, Mitch, they're 4-6 in the last 10, but some of those wins were big time road wins. Last night, they beat the Bulls at the buzzer. They beat Dallas last week. You're starting to get into a territory now where early on in the season, they dropped a game here. Okay, so what? You know, that West Coast swing where they started out, I believe, 2-0 and they lost the next 5. It was, okay, it's okay. You're at a spot now where you can't have that anymore. And we need to see a revitalized, re-energized Cavaliers team tonight at home. I know that Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse will be rocking, but the Cavs just cannot afford right now to drop a game. And they also haven't beaten a team over 500 in a few weeks, Mitch. I mean, it's been a while since they beat a team over 500. They need to make a statement tonight.
I think the goal at this point is to get to like the 48 to 50 win range, because you mentioned the 8 games against those sub 500 teams with the 17 left in the season. It's doable. It's very possible that they can get to there. And with the Knicks, I think it's a matter of them being at least top 5 team by the end, because the Nets, even though they lost 2 they've won 2 in a row, are still kind of bottoming out. Miami and Atlanta, I don't expect them to be able to play catch up, but at the same time, you never know. And I'm curious to see if the Knicks will peak early enough to a point where it's going to cost them, especially against the Cavaliers in a potential first round matchup. And granted, the Cavaliers have a little bit of ground to work with as well. I mean, 3.5 games back at the Sixers, even though the level between those 2 teams feels very, very spacious. Now, one of the games that I was able to catch up on early on yesterday was the thriller in Dallas between the Mavericks and the Suns, a game in which you had all the stars were able to ball out in the way you needed them to make it a great nationally televised game. You had Kevin Durant, 37 points in 40 minutes, 12 of 17 from the floor. Devin Booker, 36 points, 10 assists, added in 5 rebounds. Even DeAndre Ayton, who had 9 points in the game, he's not like the biggest star, but he had 16 boards for Phoenix, and he's the big post presence there. Then you go on Dallas' side, 34 points for Luka, 9 rebounds. Kyrie, 30 points, 7 assists. Even Tim Hardaway and Christian Wood combined for 38 points off the bench. But it was that one key play, that 2-foot bunny that Luka missed at the end. Durant gets the rebound. He has to foul him. Devin Booker said something just to reiterate how much people dislike the Phoenix Suns at this reign of the NBA. And, you know, the Suns, they get a double technical, so they have to go. They basically just run out the clock. Dallas had no time left to be able to come back. And then Durant, give him credit, was able to make a couple of key baskets late in the game and capitalize off of Mavericks' mistakes. But this is one where this is the, along with Knicks and Celtics, this is the 7-game postseason series that everybody wants to see at this moment, especially considering what happened last year.
Yeah. Listen, it was a phenomenal game, a very fun game. It was 2 of the top teams in the West that you'd expect to be playing at a high level, and we know has some history after last year. And Mitch, I dislike Devin Booker so much. I don't dislike him the most at any player in the NBA. Right now, that would be Dylan Brooks of the Grizzlies, and then probably just the entire Grizzlies roster besides Steven Adams. But Luka even said after the game, talking trash is fair. Don't do it with 3 seconds left if you're not going to talk trash all game, though. We know Luka talks trash. I've seen it before.
Yeah.
Obviously, watching games, he's said it before on a podcast that JJ Redick hosts. Luka talks trash, and for good reason. When you're as good of a player as Luka, you know, you're an up-and-coming superstar, if not already, probably going to be the face of the NBA here within the next 5 years. By all means, you can say whatever you want. But Devin Booker, Mitch, he poked the bear in the finals against the Bucks.
Right.
2-0 lead for the Suns, and then the Bucks score 4 in a row after he poked the bear in Giannis. He poked the bear last year in the Mavericks, and we saw what happened. And here he is yet again poking the bear. Yes, it was a big time regular season win. Yes, the Suns now have won 3 in a row. They sit 2 games up on the Warriors in the standings of the West. They're currently 4th, and the Mavericks now drop to the 7th spot. But Devin Booker, what are you doing? Like, this guy, Mitch, has just become so unlikable for, I feel like, everybody outside of Phoenix. He's a very good player. I've never been one to say I think he's one of the top players in the NBA, but I want to see the Mavericks and Suns play because I would love to see if he stands on what he did yesterday that resulted in, I believe, a double technical, and how Luka responds. Because we know when you poke the bear in Luka, Luka comes out strong and performs well and will have a say in the outcome of a game. And really, Mitch, 9 times out of 10, I think Luka Doncic hits that shot yesterday that he missed, the little bunny floater at the rim. I think, to your point, people want to see Celtics and Knicks in the first round. I think the entire NBA wants to see the Suns and the Mavericks, and for good reason. I think these two teams are evenly matched. I think obviously the Suns have more star power and bigger names and have a size advantage. But in terms of guard play, Chris Paul is not what he was, and now you have Luka and Kyrie there, Mitch. It's a lot of fun. And the West, all of a sudden, Mitch, which I think we're going to get into here with another story, is all of a sudden nothing really is set in stone besides who the number 1 team in the West is right now.